Let's start the show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Flagrant, and today we will eventually be joined by two.
Yes.
But I just want to say that we were going to wait for Uncle Murda, but Yayo specifically says start the pod early. Fuck him.
Let me ask you something that's about to make a lot of people uncomfortable. And if you feel triggered already, that probably means this question is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. What if I told you that in some very real, undeniable ways, 50 Cent might actually be bigger than Jay-Z, not richer, not more powerful in business, but bigger in cultural impact, fear factor, and the way he completely took over hip-hop at his peak? What if hip-hop, the culture we all love, actually needs beef to stay alive? No matter how much people online pretend they want peace and positivity all the time. And what if Eminem being white still matters way more than fans want to admit, even after all these years, albums, and accolades? Now relax before you start typing in the comments. This is not hate. This is not disrespect. Nobody is here to cancel legends or rewrite history. This is hip-hop.
That's what you
fuck
said.
Uncle Murda, I don't care about him. When I was doing
And hip-hop was never built on comfort. It was built on competition, ego, pressure, and proving yourself when everything is on the line. If you believe legends should never be questioned, then this conversation is going to feel dangerous. But if you really love hip-hop for what it is, not just what it looks like on award shows and Instagram posts, then stay with me. Because this isn't just about 50 Cent versus Jay-Z. It's about how we measure greatness. It's about why beef creates the most unforgettable moments in rap history. And it's about why Eminem's place in hip-hop still sparks arguments that never fully go away. These are the debates fans argue about in barbershops, podcasts, group chats, and comment sections every single day. And today,
and I started podcasting, everybody laughed at me. 50, Murda, everybody. So my get back is my success now because I haven't dropped music in 20 years, but
You're more viral.
we're not dodging them, we're facing them head on. Because hip-hop was never built on being polite. It was built on competition, on ego, on conflict, on proving you're better than the next person. And the moment hip-hop tries to act like it doesn't need beef, it starts losing something important: energy, urgency, authenticity. So before anyone gets offended, take a breath. This isn't disrespect, this is hip-hop history. Now let's start with the question that sets the internet on fire every single time. Is 50 Cent bigger than Jay-Z? On paper, most people will say no. Jay-Z is the billionaire, Jay-Z is the mogul. Jay-Z is the businessman, the executive, the cultural power player, and all of that is true. But hip-hop has never been only about paper. It's about impact, it's about presence. It's about fear, respect, and influence. And when you look at 50 Cent through that lens, the conversation changes. 50 Cent didn't just have hits, he had moments. He didn't just sell records, he
right?
Come on.
There's a new me right there.
I'm gonna give you a perfect example.
I'm a knee.
The Banks
shifted the culture. When Get Rich or Die Tryin' dropped, it wasn't just an album, it was a statement. It changed how street rap sounded, how it looked, how it was marketed. Everyone remembers where they were when NDA Club was everywhere. Clubs, radios, cars, TVs, even places that didn't normally play rap. That kind of dominance is rare. And let's talk about fear. In his prime, nobody wanted problems with 50. Not because he was the best lyricist, but because he felt real. The story felt real, the energy felt dangerous. Hip-hop respects that. Jay-Z commanded respect in a different way, more calculated, more polished, more corporate over time. 50 stayed raw, aggressive, and unapologetic. Now here's where people get it twisted. Saying 50 Cent might be bigger in certain ways does not mean Jay-Z is weak. Jay-Z won the long game, he built an empire, but hip-hop fans don't always reward.
Fountain Blue, we staying in the best hotels.
So there's never a moment in your life where you're just like, okay, this is how I live now, and anything below this, I'm annoyed. You're grateful.
I'm grateful no matter what.
You're a little bougie now, though.
Who? You think so?
A little.
But I still would go to the hood and get a beef patty and some jerk chicken.
That's true.
I went to New York Friday the other day. I was in Queens. I'm still going to the hood.
The long game emotionally, they reward moments. And 50's run was one of the most powerful moments hip-hop has ever seen. This leads directly into the second part of this conversation. Hip-hop needs beef. People don't like to admit it, but it's true. Every golden era of hip-hop had conflict. Biggie versus Pac, Nas versus Jay-Z, 50 versus Ja Rule, Drake versus Meek, Kendrick versus Drake conversations. Beef sharpens artists, it forces creativity, it creates urgency, it gives fans something to feel. When artists are too friendly, the music gets comfortable.
I wasn't in the ad
Right.
because of, look, Jay-Z and them was putting it together. So I think they still harbor some energy towards me.
You think you were purposely left out of the ad?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think. I think that they were saying the NFL has some issues with me that I don't know what those issues are. Like, what is the issue? You see what I'm saying?
The revelation.
Predictable. Beef pushes people to their limits. It forces rappers to actually rap, to write better bars, to think strategically, to care without competition. Hip-hop risks becoming background music instead of culture. And no, that doesn't mean violence. It means lyrical warfare. It means ego clashes. It means proving who's really the best. Hip-hop without beef is like boxing without opponents. It loses its soul. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Eminem is white, and yes, that still matters. Not because it discredits him, but because it shapes how he's perceived. Eminem is one of the greatest rappers of all time. His skill is undeniable. His influence is massive. His catalog speaks for itself, but race has always been part of hip-hop's conversation, whether people like it or not. Eminem entered a black-created culture and didn't just survive, he dominated. That created tension, respect, but also discomfort. Some fans feel he gets extra praise because he's white. Others feel he had to work twice as hard to be accepted. Both things can be true at the same time. What makes Eminem special is that he never pretended to be something he wasn't. He acknowledged
himself.
You see, yeah, that's why I talked to the big homie. You saying, told Jay, he was telling me, the white boy wouldn't do the truth without 50.
I hit the homie, the big homie Jay-Z, right? And I told him to come pull up on me. And he pulled up on me and he said, the white guy called for 50 Cent.
What emerged from this?
He paid respect, he gave credit, and he rapped at a level so high that denying him became impossible. But the conversation about his race never fully goes away, because hip-hop is deeply tied to identity. Now when you put all these pieces together, something interesting happens. You start seeing hip-hop not just as music, but as a reflection of power, struggle, and competition. 50 Cent represents raw dominance, Jay-Z represents evolution and control. Eminem represents skill crossing boundaries, beef connects all of them. The problem today is that fans want honesty but can't handle it. The moment someone says 50 might be bigger than Jay-Z in certain ways, people get defensive. The moment someone says hip-hop needs beef, people call it toxic. The moment someone mentions Eminem's race, people shut down. But avoiding these conversations doesn't protect the culture, it weakens it. Hip-hop was never meant to be comfortable, it was meant to challenge, to provoke, to spark debate, to force people to choose sides. That's why these conversations keep coming back every few years, because deep down, fans miss that intensity. Look at today's landscape. The biggest moments still come from tension, diss tracks still break the internet, rivalries still boost streams, debates still drive engagement, beef still sells. Even when people pretend they're tired of it. So when someone says hip-hop needs
different part of New York, Tanya, she was like, it's like a different part of New York. I'm waking up, I'm out of jail, I'm seeing the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, wow. Oh shit, we really made it. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
And then I remember being in shock, because I was in the shock program.
Yeah. What's shock?
Shock is like a boot camp.
Okay.
So like my gun charge was nonviolent.
beef. They're not saying hip-hop needs hate. They're saying hip-hop needs hunger. It needs pressure. It needs something to fight against. And nothing creates that better than competition. Now back to the original question, is 50 Cent bigger than Jay-Z? The real answer is this, it depends on how you define bigger business, Jay-Z. Bigger cultural shockwave at peak, 50 Cent. Bigger long-term influence, debatable. And that debate is exactly why hip-hop stays alive. And Eminem is proof that skill can break barriers, but never erase them completely. His race will always be part of the conversation. Not to diminish him, but because hip-hop is honest about where it comes from. In the end, hip-hop doesn't need fake peace, it needs real competition, real debate, real opinions. Even if they make people uncomfortable, especially if they make people uncomfortable. Because the moment hip-hop stops arguing, stops challenging itself, stops questioning its own legends, is the moment it stops being hip-hop. And that's the real conversation nobody wants to have. And once you really sit with these questions, you start realizing why they never die. Because hip-hop is not just music, it's competition mixed with identity. It's ego mixed with survival, and that combination will always create friction. The culture doesn't grow in silence, it grows when artists feel challenged, doubted, or even disrespected. This is why the comparison between 50 Cent and Jay-Z hits such a nerve. They represent two very different paths to greatness. Jay-Z is the blueprint for evolution. He went from hustler to rapper to executive to billionaire. His story is about growth, strategy, and playing the long game. 50 Cent's story is about impact. About crashing through the door, taking over the room, and daring anyone to stop him. One built a kingdom slowly, the other conquered instantly. And hip-hop fans don't all value the same thing. Some respect ownership and longevity more than anything, others respect dominance and fearlessness. That's why arguments get so heated. People aren't just debating music, they're debating values. Now let's talk honestly about why 50 Cent still feels bigger to many people emotionally. It's because his era felt dangerous. When 50 was on top, there was tension in the air. You didn't know who he was going to diss next. You didn't know what line was going to cross a boundary. Hip-hop felt unpredictable. That unpredictability is addictive. It makes fans feel like anything can happen. Compare that to today's industry where everything is calculated, brand safe, and approved by teams. The music is cleaner, but the edge is softer. That's why people romanticize the past. Not
They not catch you if you're promoting the shows wherever you're going.
Because now I can move around. Like I'm with 50 in Pennsylvania. He lived after he got shot. He had a spot in Pennsylvania, so I'm back and forth.
They couldn't see him because he went
And
like
then-
this.
yeah, started.
because everything was better, but because everything felt more alive. This is also where beef comes back into the conversation. Beef is not about hate, it's about stakes. When artists have something to lose, the music hits harder. Diss tracks force rappers to sharpen their skills. You can't hide behind marketing. When another artist is calling you out directly, you either respond or you look weak. That pressure creates legendary moments. Think about how many classic songs were born from competition. How many careers were defined by one response track? Beef creates deadlines, it creates urgency. It forces honesty, and honesty is what hip-hop was built on, but somewhere along the way, fans started confusing peace with progress. They started thinking that no beef means maturity. In reality, it often means complacency. Hip-hop doesn't need chaos, but it does need challenge. It needs artists pushing each other to be better, instead of just coexisting politely. Now let's circle back to Eminem because his presence ties this entire conversation together. Eminem exists at the intersection of skill, controversy, and identity. His talent is undeniable. But the fact that he's white in a black-dominated culture will always be part of how he's discussed, not as an insult, but as context. Eminem himself understood this early on. He never claimed to represent the culture. He positioned himself as a guest who earned his seat through ability. That humility is why he survived, but fans still project their own feelings onto him. Some celebrate him as proof that hip-hop is universal. Others see him as an exception that proves the rule. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Eminem's success did open doors, but it also changed expectations. When a white rapper becomes one of the biggest artists ever, the industry pays attention. Labels look for the next crossover, marketing shifts, narratives change. That doesn't erase black excellence, but it does complicate the ecosystem. This is why these debates feel so layered. You can't talk about 50 without talking about authenticity. You can't talk about Jay-Z without talking about power and ownership. You can't talk about Eminem without talking about race. And you can't talk about hip-hop without talking about beef. All of this connects to one bigger issue. Hip-hop is struggling with its identity. It wants to grow globally, but it doesn't want to lose its soul. It wants to be respected as art. But it was born from rebellion. It wants peace, but it thrives on conflict. That tension is built into the culture, and maybe that's okay. Maybe hip-hop isn't supposed to resolve these contradictions. Maybe it's supposed to live in them. Maybe that's why we're still arguing about legends from 20 years ago, because those eras felt real, they felt raw, they felt necessary. When people say 50 Cent is bigger than Jay-Z, what they're really saying is I miss when hip-hop felt dangerous. When people say hip-hop needs beef, what they're really saying is I miss when artists cared enough to fight for greatness. And when people say Eminem is white, what they're really saying is identity still matters. Even in music, these conversations don't mean the culture is broken, they mean it's alive. So instead of shutting them down, maybe we should lean into them, debate them, argue respectfully, let people have opinions. Because hip-hop was never about everyone agreeing, it was about everyone having a voice. And as long as people are still passionately debating who's bigger, who's better, and what hip-hop really needs, the culture isn't dying, it's just doing what it has always done, making people uncomfortable enough to tell the truth. But here's where things get even more interesting when we talk about legends. We often forget the environment they came from. Jay-Z came up in an era where survival meant strategy. He learned how to move quietly, how to build alliances, how to turn music into leverage. His greatness isn't loud anymore because it doesn't need to be. Power at that level whispers. That's why Jay-Z doesn't jump into every debate. His silence itself is part of his brand. 50 Cent, on the other hand, came from chaos. His environment rewarded boldness, aggression, and confrontation. He didn't win by playing safe. He won by being impossible to ignore. His personality was the product, his conflicts were Marketing. His beefs weren't accidents, they were fuel. And that's why fans still feel his presence years later. He represented a version of hip-hop that didn't ask for permission. This difference matters because it shows why people argue about bigger. Bigger isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about how deeply someone is etched into the emotional memory of the culture. 50 Cent represents a moment when hip-hop felt raw, unfiltered, and unapologetic. Jay-Z represents what happens when that raw energy is refined into long-term dominance. Neither path is wrong, but they speak to different generations and different values. Now let's be honest about something else people avoid saying. A lot of fans don't actually want peace in hip-hop, they want excitement. They want unpredictability, they want moments that feel like history is being made in real time. That's why beef clips go viral faster than album announcements. That's why diss tracks trend harder than love songs. Conflict creates narrative. And narratives are what keep hip-hop alive. Without beef, artists don't have rivals. Without rivals, they don't have urgency. Without urgency, the music becomes safe. And safe music doesn't age well. It gets played, but it doesn't get remembered. This is why even today, when an artist takes a shot at another rapper, the internet wakes up, fans pick sides, podcasts explode, reaction videos flood YouTube. Everyone suddenly cares again. Beef doesn't destroy hip-hop, it reminds people why they fell in love with it. Now let's talk about Eminem one more time, because his role in all of this is unique. Eminem didn't just enter hip-hop, he challenged people's ideas of who hip-hop is for, and that made some fans uncomfortable, not because he lacked skill, but because his success forced the culture to confront its boundaries. Eminem's whiteness didn't make him great, his skill did, but his whiteness changed how his greatness was received. Some fans embraced him harder, others questioned the attention he received. That tension never fully disappeared, and it probably never will, but here's the key difference. Eminem never tried to escape that conversation, he leaned into it. He acknowledged it, he used it in his music. That honesty earned him respect even from people who didn't like him at first. And that's something all three of these artists have in common, whether you love them or hate them. They were honest. Jay-Z was honest about ambition. 50 Cent was honest about aggression. Eminem was honest about insecurity and identity. That honesty is why their names still come up in debates decades later. Compare that to many modern artists: perfect branding, perfect rollout, perfect silence. But very little personality, very little risk, and that's why the culture feels quieter now. Not weaker, just quieter. Hip-hop doesn't need more perfection, it needs more pressure. And that pressure comes from competition, criticism, and yes, beef. Now let's zoom out for a second. These debates aren't really about who's number one. They're about what we value as fans. Do we value ownership more than impact? Longevity more than dominance? Skill more than authenticity? Peace more than passion? Different fans will answer differently. And that's okay. Hip-hop was never meant to have one answer, it was meant to have voices. Loud ones. So when someone says 50 Cent might be bigger than Jay-Z, don't hear disrespect. Hear nostalgia for a time when hip-hop felt dangerous. When someone says hip-hop needs beef, don't hear violence, hear a demand for urgency. And when someone says Eminem is white, don't hear dismissal, hear context. These conversations don't weaken the culture, they test it. And any culture that can't survive being questioned was never strong to begin with. At the end of the day, hip-hop was never about comfort. It was about conflict, confidence, and carving out space in a world that didn't want you to have any. That's why these debates still matter, that's why they still spark emotion. Because hip-hop isn't just something we listen to, it's something we feel. 50 Cent, Jay-Z, and Eminem represent three different truths of the culture: raw dominance, strategic power, unmatched skill. None of them cancel each other out. Together, they explain why hip-hop is still here. And maybe the real problem isn't that fans argue too much. Maybe the real problem is that we've forgotten how to argue with passion instead of fear.